this video I want to show you one of my absolute favorite recipes of cooking fish. So it's called Fish Viennoise. So it was actually a recipe by a 3 Michelin star chef in Paris, Bernard Bacot and L'Ambrois, and he made that dish. And I remember when I was in London and worked for Marco Pierre White, he copied that dish and it was done with cod, and it's really simple. I show you today a simpler version. The original recipe asks also for mushroom duxelle and tomato fondue under the fish, but for everyday home cooking I want to show you a really simple way, because everyone who ever tried that dish absolutely loves it. It's really easy to do. You can pre-make it. It's brilliant for dinner party because you could cook it for up to 20 people easily. All you need to do, you need to put the fish into a tray later on and then cook it, but I'll explain you much more about that. So the ingredients you have is soft butter, so which you just sort of whisk up a little bit. Then to that soft butter we will add some cheese, in that case Gruyere cheese, or if you don't have that you could use just a cheddar cheese. You don't have to have a very strong cheese taste, because you know fish and cheese is not something that goes ideally together, but there's the odd out of everything, and that is that dish. In there goes the breadcrumbs. So use some Japanese breadcrumbs or pancake breadcrumbs. The cheese went in there, and now we also add some cream in it. So it doesn't have to be double cream, just make sure it's single cream. Now knead that all together. Just can use your hands for it if you want to. You could add other flavors to it, like you could add a bit of chopped thyme to it. You could go and extend it with some sun-dried tomatoes, or you could add some chopped olives through it. And we also used to do that at Marco Pierre White's restaurants. And that dough now, you literally could freeze that down. You could, like, if I had planned my dinner party, I'll roll that out now between baking paper, which I will show you in a second, and then I would freeze it down. And if you freeze it down, then you just take it out and then you just cut the fish around. So think about the dinner party. You're not going to need any potatoes or anything anymore either, but just a really nice sauce would be great, like a beurre blanc or something like a gratin sauce, which you can see in one of my other videos. And then just place that onto a piece of paper, as I said. Now how thick, so imagine like I had that in the fridge and the freezer. I obviously can't roll a block like that, so I want to give you a quick tip, which is I just cut it into slices, then I layer them next to each other, so I know approximately how thick I want my crust, and that all depends on the thickness of the fish. So if you have a really thin fish fillet, you're going to go for really thin crust. If you go for thick fish fillet, like I do it today with salmon, because that's sort of what most people can get their head around it regards the thickness, and it's easier to translate that in the video. So then let it sit for half an hour or so, and that will give the butter the time to sort of soften, and then you can just roll it out. So my crust today is approximately 5 to 6 millimeters thick, and then get your fish fillet. So what you can see here now, you can either put it both ways down, but I like to put it with that tendon muscly side that's under the skin on the cooking part, because that will cook it through. Otherwise, if I leave that sort of grayish thing you see on the top here, which is the muscle that the fish uses the most, if I leave that under the crust, that could be a little bit chewy later on. So when I have the tender part under the crust, I know most of you would think it's the other way around. Then remove the paper, and like that you could put it now into the fridge, and it could literally sit there for a day or two. You know, so think about it. When I do my dinner party for that, all I do, I make is a nice vegetable dish, even as simple as just some steamed broccolini or asparagus or some spinach and things like that, and then a nice little sauce, and it's an absolute, you know, a recipe worth in a Michelin star restaurant. And it used to be served in 3 Michelin star restaurants with just a little upgrade under the crust. So now put it on kitchen paper, and now we'll show you how to cook it. So turn your oven on as hot as you can, so literally 250 degrees. Now I do not want to put it into the cold pan, because you know the cold pan will not cook the fish. I have to be very careful about that, and the crust on the top will be cooked, and then eventually the pan underneath would heat up and will overcook the fish. So in order to stabilize the temperature, in order to make sure and I do not overcook my fish, I put a little bit of water, it could be wine, it could be fish stock, into the pan. I probably wonder, water cooking or fish cooking water is a disaster. Not really, because fish can't absorb water. The fish meat is so wet already, it's unable to absorb water. So there would be no water going into the fish in that short cooking time we do here today. So place it on there, and you can see it's just a tiny bit of water in it, and it's just about to keep the temperature of the pan down. That's all you want to do. And now into the oven at 250 degrees for how long? 6 to 8 minutes. Now, if you're not very good with that, if you do a dinner party, I recommend you take a fish that cooks a bit better, like a rockling or halibut or cod, that tolerates a little bit more cooking. Here we go, there's your crusted fish.